of humankind where we must make the right choices so that our species will exist long into the future and our descendants will think back and look at us. We will never see Lucy species again, and we will never see Neanderthals again. They survived, but they didn't survive to present day. We are alone. We are a sole species on this planet. We have inherited, whether we like it or not, that incredible responsibility, frightening responsibility, to be protectors rather than destroyers of this planet. The future of the planet, the future of our species, the future of our descendants, the future of all of our fellow travelers now rests very firmly within our hands.
Tonight at 7. At 7:30. At 8. Thanks for watching Arizona PBS, a viewer-supported community service of Arizona State University. Support for Arizona PBS comes from viewers like you and from...
Are you a high school student looking to jumpstart your path to higher education? Unlock new opportunities with ASU's Universal Learner courses. Flexible, self-paced courses designed for your busy life. Universal Learner courses let you earn college credit online, which can increase your chance of getting into college. Earn college credit without risk to your GPA. Only convert for credit when your final grade meets your standards. Learn more at ulc.asu.edu.
Southwest Spine and Sports, providing personalized, non-surgical biologic spine treatments as an alternative to back surgery. Dr. Michael Wolf has 26 years of experience in regenerative medicine here in Scottsdale. More information about the disc seal procedure at swspineandsports.com.
Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, it's a journalist roundtable. We'll look at the week's top stories, including the state Senate passing a budget and then adjourning for the year despite no vote on the budget as yet from the House. Journalist roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. It's Friday, and that means it's time for the Journalists Roundtable. And joining us tonight, Mary Jo Pitzel of the Arizona Republic and azcentral.com, Cameron Sanchez of KJZZ Radio, and Lori Roberts from the Arizona Republic and azcentral.com. Panel, good to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining us. Mary Jo, we'll start with you. Senate approves a plan and then adjourns, but the House is supposed to come back Monday. What's going on here?
Well, the Senate says that they have adjourned sine die, which means they're gone.
Yeah.
For the rest of the session. That is disputable because the House, there's technicality, but the House has to be in session for that to be recognized, and they weren't. So, but the Senate says our work's done here. We're off. While they were still in the process of voting through the budget bills, in early evening. What day is this? Thursday, the Senate announced, you know what, we're going to go home. The plan for the House was to just keep working through the weekend, into Saturday, get the budget from the Senate, put it through their process and be done early Saturday morning. And then Thursday evening, they changed their mind and said, we're going home, see you Monday.
So what's going on here, Cameron? What's the deal?
There's some politics. It's obviously a statement the House is making. They're upset with the budget. There had been signs of this somewhat earlier on. There was some name calling on social media. Livingston, who is the head of basically the House appropriations negotiations, had called the Senate president a rhino, a Republican in name only.
Warren Peterson.
Warren Peterson. Senator Hoffman, who leads the Freedom Caucus, is taking some of the credit for this, saying that he's working to stop the budget, which he called a Democrat budget. It's weird just from the get-go that the Senate negotiated the budget with the governor rather than the House and Senate working together as one team and then going to the governor. That's unusual.
In what world is Warren Peterson a rhino?
Well, he's not, but Warren Peterson is living in the real world, which is that if you want to get a budget without doing the governor's veto dance that you can get out of there for the year, you've got to work with the governor. You've got to give and take on both sides and be the adults in the room and negotiate something. The House is more dominated by probably more conservative legislators, and the House Arizona Freedom Caucus. They consider her Beelzebub. They're not going to deal with this governor if they don't have to. So they just went into their own little fantasy land bubble and said, well, we'll just make our own budget. But of course, that was never going to go anywhere, and it's still not going to, because if their budget were to go up to the governor, it would come right back down with a veto. And so I think that Peterson's trying to get beyond that, and let's get something passed and get out of here. It's, what, 10 days until a government shutdown?
What happens on Monday? What happens if the House looks at the budget and says, oh, we're going to change a couple of things here?
Well, I guess they can try to do that and, give them some grace. Maybe depending on the changes, maybe those would be palatable to the Senate, but it would have to go back to the Senate and get their approval. And the Senate's not going to approve anything that's not going to fit with the deal they negotiated with the governor. So the thought was that the House felt like they were being boxed in to just have to sort of rubber stamp this budget. But you know what? The House Republicans chose to not negotiate with the Senate and with the governor. The House Democrats were negotiating, but the House Republicans went it alone and passed what I call the Friday the 13th budget. It's sort of living up to that name.
Well, I think the issue is here. Can that budget pass in the House? Now, Senator Peterson says he's got the votes. They've got the votes over there to do it. You've got 27 Democrats, and you just get an assortment of a couple of Republicans, and you're there. So you just get in that big monster truck of yours, and you roll right over the Arizona Freedom Caucus and those more conservative Republicans, which is why they're doing things like calling Warren Peterson, of all people, a rhino.
And so is there going to be a monster truck rally here? I mean, what's happening?
I'm excited. I think that yes, but, well, I'm not sure. But I do think that the House is going to have to continue with this thing that they've started, right? Like, they're going to not just pass the budget and say everything's fine now, because they obviously did this for some sort of reason. And they started off a few weeks ago by putting up their own conservative budget that no Democrats voted on at all. So I don't know, maybe they're trying to get to the point of a partial government shutdown to prove that they're conservative enough and that they're better than the Senate. If they accomplish that, then I suppose that's great for their base to a degree, but eventually we're just going to have to come together and put something together that's real and bipartisan. Otherwise, there is no real end game here.
To be clear, there would be a shutdown if they put amendments in there and the Senate said, no, we're gone, we're adios, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Is that likely to happen?
I mean,
It never has. You're going to take DPS off the streets, and you're going to take the get 'em people away from chasing down immigrants, and you're going to take, I don't know, the state DES have no services there. You're going to not give money to the schools. I don't think it's a very popular thing to shut. As much as it sounds kind of like it would be fun, it's not really realistic or likely popular with voters to do that. So if you want to be the ones who say, hey, vote for us, we're the ones who shut down government, I don't know that I think that's a winning strategy unless you are in such a right-wing conservative district that nobody else really matters.
I think you've got to wonder if over the weekend people are really examining this thing. Lawmakers are, looking in their souls and saying, what am I going to do? Am I going to stand in the way of, of government being able to continue to operate? I mean, voters say they want people to work together. We have a budget that is bipartisan. It's Republican and Democrat voices. Both sides have got things they didn't get things that they wanted, and then they got some things that they wanted. So, I mean, I think a lot will shake out over the weekend. Monday, in a way, is very far away from now, and then they do have like all of next week. So I can't predict.
Yeah. Where do Democrats fit in all this?
I think the Democrats are rolling their eyes a little bit, at least in the House of Representatives. The House Democrats put out a statement and said, we're the adults in the room. We're at the table and ready to work. This wasn't our decision, which is very true. It was mostly, I think, leadership's decision. And the Speaker of the House, Steve Montenegro, was very unresponsive. He kind of did this, and then everybody went home. And I tried to talk to him earlier this week, but he was he gave me the most generic statement of all time. I think he said, we're working on a budget. And I was like, well,
Oh,
yes.
that's helpful.
Yeah.
So the biggest difference, the biggest thing, obviously the House version is a little more conservative, a little less spending, but what are the real flashpoints here?
Well, I don't know what's realistic because that budget was a non-starter and Katie Hobbs said so, but there's some policy stuff. And that's something Peterson said he doesn't want in the budget. The budget's about spending, right? So keeping policy to separate bills is what they're supposed to do from a legal standpoint. So the House coming in with conservative ideas and policy and wanting those to be incorporated into the budget would, first of all, not pass through the governor, and second of all, potentially not pass through the court system. So I assume that's what they're advocating for, and not just, little spending projects.
Well, one of the things that I think is in the budget, and I don't understand how it could be a budget bill, is to rein in the Attorney General, making it more difficult for her to prosecute allegations of political corruption, which of course would be like the fake electors. They want her to have to come to them to get approval before she can prosecute any of them. And I don't really know why that's a budget issue, but that was one of the things that was in the House budget that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, a lot of it is policy, which, as Cameron said, I mean, our state Supreme Court a couple years ago ruled you cannot put policy into the budget. The budget is about money and allocating money. And I think one of the calmer voices throughout all this was Senator John Kavanaugh, who led the budget negotiations for the Senate. And he said, look, there's a lot of stuff that we like in that House version, but let's be realistic. We have a Democratic governor. Elections have consequences. I mean, how many times have we heard that from Republicans? And so get with it, people, and if you want something different, then we'll wait and elect a Republican governor.
Didn't Kavanaugh have some sort of $5 million pet fund project for certain Senate? What was that all about?
That was the Dark Sky Discovery Center up in Fountain Hills. It's in the budget. So, there's money for that.
Okay, so that it was, people call it a slush fund, but it was $5 million for certain folks, correct? That made it in?
Yeah, so the way that they did it a few years ago was they split up the money that they had, which was kind of like surplus money to spend, and every Republican got a portion of it to themselves. And this year, the Senate had a similar concept, although it was a different amount of money. So it was a 90-90-90 idea. Senate Republicans got $90 million to spend how they wanted. The governor got 90, which is governor / all Democrats. And then the House Republicans would have had 90. And so a lot of that for individual lawmakers meant things like road projects or infrastructure or like little, the Discovery Center, whatever it's called. But the House Republicans, they kind of just left space for because they were waiting for the House Republicans, according to the Senate, to come to the table. And so it wasn't until this past week that some of that really got incorporated realistically up to what they thought would get the House on board. And then clearly that wasn't enough for them.
Another aspect of this Senate budget that was interesting is that, as we said, it was the Senate Republicans and the Democrats from both chambers negotiating it, yet the Senate Democratic leadership voted against almost all the bills. I mean, after being at the table.
Because there was money in there for interdiction at the border, not that there's anybody left at the border, but border enforcement and drug interdiction, that sort of thing. And I think given that money has always been in the budget, but given that life is a little different this year under the Trump administration, that they just didn't want to provide that much more money to go after immigrants.
Lori, some bills of note, the Chase Field Renault, improvement, this sort of thing, passed the Senate in the bill. Had the $500 million cap. Is that
home run?
Is that what the governor wanted? Was that cap what the governor wanted?
That cap is what she agreed to, whether she wanted it or not. I think that it was acceptable to her. That diverts $500 million in tax money. I think sales tax and some income tax money to. From the general tax fund to the Diamondbacks. They then have to add in another $250 million. The interesting thing to me was that it also there's an inflation factor in there of 3%, so that really $500 million is probably more like $1 billion when you get done with it, whatever that is over 30 years. But interestingly, they get a 3% inflation adjustment. The public schools only get 2%. So I guess that tells you, where our priorities are.
And we can't leave the Diamondbacks issue without noting that the votes on that were very interesting, and they were accompanied by poetry. So we had a long ode from Senator Mitzi Epstein about billionaire the billionaire monster. And then Jake Hoffman, who also opposed the bill, came up with his own version of Casey at the bat. In a way, it was a little bit of levity, and it was rather stunning to see these two very opposite ideological ends agree on an issue.
Did he come up with it, or was it AI generated?
I didn't think he could write that fast, so they got another year. I mean, like, the deadline's way far away. So
way far away in an election year, which is going to make it. Everything is tougher in an election
Very
year,
much.
which is every other year in this state for the legislature. So I think it is imperative that they get it done this year. But if the Senate's not coming back, it's sort of a moot point.
The Senate bill, Lori, regarding access and enrollment for childless adults and these sorts of things, what's new?
Well, the House budget and the bill would freeze enrollment for childless adults. Those are the people who I think make more than the minimum. They're part of the Medicaid expansion group.
Right.
And it would freeze enrollment because the thinking is, the Trump administration is going to cut that money anyway, so let's just not let them in to begin with, and then we don't have to dump them out, and it's just less painful. So that was their idea. The Senate was apparently not interested in that idea. That's not in their budget. So as of now, there will be no cuts to access. If this is the budget, the Senate budget is the one that goes through.
Right, but I do see it as sort of a sign of what might be coming. I mean, we don't know what the big, beautiful bill out of Congress ultimately will look like and what its impact on Medicaid will be, but sure, Medicaid's in the crosshairs.
Yes, I think a lot of people are interested in that, especially from D.C., but also as far as Arizona is concerned. Cameron, I'm going to go straight to you on this one. Ag to Urban bill. It looks like a deal was cut between the Republicans and the governor, correct?
Correct. And that's sort of exciting. Ag to Urban basically means allowing farmers to retire their water rights to a degree and sell their land to home builders in parts of the metro area in which groundwater is restricted because we have low levels. So it's a little bit complicated, but not as bad as it sounds. The idea behind this is really because of the housing moratorium that Hobbs announced. And so it would be a pathway to both create more housing and save on water. It's supposed to be a win-win. It's optional. Farmers can participate if they want to, but they don't have to. So everybody likes that. But there's been lots of fighting about what proposal they should use and how much water people should be allowed to use in their proposal. And, Hobbs's water department tried Ag to Urban, not going through the legislature, but on their own. And the Republicans were really mad about that. And they didn't like that version of it. And they said it should be a legislative function. So it's exciting that they actually managed to come to a deal. I wasn't sure that they would be able to handle it and pass something that the governor apparently is going to sign and agrees with. And she tweeted about it, seems happy with it. But I'm a little bit surprised that I expected her to use that as leverage, and I think there's also some thought from rural folks who wanted more on groundwater conservation that she was supposed to use this as leverage in those negotiations, and she might have let herself get rolled, and they're frustrated by that. Shope, who is the sponsor of the Republican bill, called it like the most consequential water legislation in decades, which is kind of true given that they haven't done that much.
Well, you're talking 400,000 plus acres of farmland, and you could cock maybe like 1 million homes if even half of that farmland is used for water, and it would be less water used.
Yeah.
But here's the other part of it, is that this is also sold as a way to get affordable housing, and I will just sit back and wait and see, what kind of price tags those homes carry.
Yeah.
Lori, foreign-owned land was also, and this was an interesting little push and shove, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, they originally had a bill that would have banned our enemies from owning land near sensitive projects here, near installations for the military, near power plants, et cetera. And, that's China and Iran and Russia and the like. The bill was way watered down in the Senate, I guess in the Senate or the House, before it went to the governor, and she vetoed it and said, come back to me with a real bill. And then she actually proposed a much stronger bill that would have done the things that the legislature said they wanted to do. But of course, you can't give her a win. Again, elections are coming up next year, and it's going to be a brutal race. So they weren't about to, go back to their original, or at least not so far. So again, the Senate is gone. So I don't see anything happening on that, and it's a shame because both sides, I think most people would agree, we don't want our enemies to own land right next to Luke Air Force Base, but they couldn't agree because politics intrude as politics always does.
So the original bill was vetoed. You had some sort of negotiation. Something happened where, you know, the governor said get tougher on. The governor told Republicans get tougher on this. They got tougher on this, and what, it just floated away.
Yeah, and she also came out with her own proposal, which is what she sort of put out there for lawmakers to pick up. And, you know, like Lori said, you don't necessarily want to give her a win.
We had Republicans tweeting about that. You know, this is not a bad idea, but we can't give her a win on this. So, no,
smokes.
nothing happened.
All right, that makes sense to you?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, okay. How about animal cruelty? Did the animal cruelty bill get a hoot? Go ahead, please.
It passed, but it, again, talk about watered down. So animal cruelty bill was inspired by this horrible case in Chandler a few years ago. There was like 55 dogs on one property who were in terrible conditions. I think there were dead puppies in a freezer. It was awful. But the law enforcement said that they didn't have the proper laws to really like prosecute the case as they wanted to, as they should. So this bill would basically expand the definition of what animal cruelty is. And originally, it would have required you to feed your animals proper, like drinkable water and food that's appropriate for the species, meaning, you know, I can't feed my guinea pig raw meat, stuff like that, and shelter. But there was a lot of pushback, okay, from you know, groups who are concerned maybe it would affect livestock and farmers, and even though there were carve-outs for that. And then there was some, what Bullock, who's the sponsor, called, she says, political opposition. You know, TPUSA was very against it. They don't like her very much either. She thinks that there's a correlation. So they did pass something, but I think the food and water was all taken out. So it basically just says some animals have to have some shelter sometimes.
And medical care. It does say that you could cite somebody if they withheld medical care to the point that it would cause unreasonable suffering. But which led to interesting floor debates where I think Representative Alexander Collin was saying, so we're going to provide better health care and medical care for pets than we will for, you know, these are pets that are in people's homes who don't have a lot of money. And what about health care for their kids?
Well, that's a good question. Why don't we provide better health care for
There
the
you
kids?
go.
So maybe Colleton could get in front of that next year.
I might get an angry phone call if I'm misunderstanding this, but his comments were like, we're going to make it a crime to not give food, water, shelter, and medical care to animals, but it's not a crime to do that for kids. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it is a crime to not give kids food, water, medical care, and shelter.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that concerns me too.
Yeah. All right. Real quickly, but outside of the legislature and the budget, the county recorder and the Board of Supervisors, they don't get along, Lori.
No. Well, Justin Heap, former member of the Arizona Freedom Caucus, was elected. He's what I would call election denier adjacent. He's never really been clear on what he believes as to the 2020 and 2022 elections, or 2024. And many people just think he wants to get in there and cause havoc to the system because he thinks there's fraud, and who knows what he thinks, because he really is coy about that. So he's been fighting with the Board of Supervisors, contending that they have taken away his power, that they negotiated a deal with his predecessor, Stephen Richter, which took away all his power and all his money, and now he can't do anything. And so he's sued the supervisors have countersued him, and meanwhile he's gone to the legislature trying to get money to do whatever it is that he wants to do. Nobody's really sure. It changes day in and day out, but the supervisors are quite angry at the thought of that, and it's just going to have to play itself out. I think what's going to have to happen is the courts are going to have to spell out in an election who does what, because it's sort of a bifurcated system. The recorder is in charge of certain things, voter registration and early balloting, and the supervisors are responsible for election day, and it's sort of difficult to sort out.
And then we got the recorder saying, I've got my attorney, by the way, and the county attorney saying, yes, you do. It's me, and it's not that person over there. There's a disagreement there.
Yep, and so they're in court to litigate that. Rachel Mitchell sent out a sort of a nastygram to Heap's attorney, who's James Rogers with the America First Legal Foundation, last week, and said, stand down. Maybe you didn't quite realize this, but I'm the attorney. You cannot represent him. And on that basis, they're saying this lawsuit that Heap filed is invalid because you don't have the right attorney.
All right.
Well, we're paying for both sides.
Well, exactly. All right. We will stop it right there because I want to get a report in here at the last. But thank you so much for joining us. Good conversation. Before we go, I do want to get a report in on Attorney General Kris Mayes filing an amicus brief today. She was leading a coalition of a couple of dozen attorneys general across the United States. The brief supports lawsuits by NPR and PBS regarding proposed funding cuts to public media. In the amicus brief, the emergency alert systems were mentioned, toxic spills warnings, these sorts of things, weather warnings, those sorts of things, how important they are in rural areas, and that 95% of the state is covered by public media. Education was also mentioned a lot in this amicus brief. PBS Kids educational programs, especially in low-income homes, especially how important the home learning programs were during the pandemic. That was brought up by the attorneys general. And the benefits of kids camps around the state was mentioned here in Arizona, especially the overall success of the educational outreach team. Public media's work with tribes, especially Arizona PBS, and hitting remote areas out there, the disproportionate threat to those kinds of communities, that was mentioned as well. The bottom line in this amicus brief, again, Attorney General Chris Mays, along with, 22, 23 other attorneys general around the country. The conclusion, and I quote, "Public media is an important good deserving of more support and not less." That's what happened today as far as an amicus brief. I know our audience is very interested in that particular story. That's the latest, and that's it. I'm Ted Simons. Thanks so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
When you want to be more informed, Arizona PBS delivers news and analysis with multiple perspectives, thanks to financial support from you and
Arizona Theater Company at Tempe Center for the Arts presents Ms. Holmes and Ms. Watson, Apartment 2B, a murder mystery with a comedic modern-day take on the iconic detective duo. June 14th through June 29th. Tickets at atc.org.